It has truth and grit. And you can't shower people with truth and grit if you're going to be careful about stepping out of the line.
Mel Brooks is a famous American comedian, director, producer, screenwriter, actor, composer, and lyricist. His full name is Melvin James Kaminsky, but is also known as Melvin. He was born on June 28, 1926, in Brooklyn, New York, United States, making him 95 years old at the time of this production. He stands at 1.6 meters, or 5 feet 5 inches tall. Coffee is probably his favorite thing to drink, but he is a simple man with no preferences on what to eat. He enjoys what he gets. His favorite sport is weightlifting. Brooks' journey to becoming the 8th EGOT in world history began in 1967, when his work with Sid Caesar netted him an Outstanding Writing Emmy. 2 years later, Brooks accepted a Best Original Screenplay Oscar for The Producers. He then won 3 more Emmys en route to landing a Grammy with Carl Reiner for their aforementioned 2,000-Year-Old Man in the Year 2000 album in 1999. Finally, Brooks personally took home a trio of Tonys after The Producers musical was released. The year 1944 was a pivotal one for Brooks. Upon graduating from high school, the future Oscar nominee, who still officially went by Melvin Kaminsky, joined the U.S. Army. After getting some training in Virginia and Oklahoma, he was sent off to Europe. As a member of the 1104th Engineer Combat Group, the Brooklynite never saw action in the Battle of the Bulge. However, Brooks' unit spent most of its time away from the battlefield. Instead, a normal day's work for Brooks and his unit involved building bridges or poking around for buried landmines with their bayonets.
Kismet? Luck? What? Anyway, I'm in love. I know I'm just struck by her. I'm struck and I'm in love.
Brooks was born Melvin Kaminsky on June 28, 1926, in Brooklyn, New York, to Kate and Max Kaminsky, and grew up in Williamsburg. His father's family were Jewish people from Gdańsk, Poland, and his mother's family were Jews from Kiev. Brooks was married to Florence Baum, a Broadway dancer from 1953 to 1962. Their marriage ended in divorce. They had 3 children, Stephanie, Nikki, and Eddie. Brooks married stage, film, and television actress Anne Bancroft in 1964, and they remained together until she died in 2005. They met at a rehearsal for the Perry Como variety show in 1961 and were married 3 years later on August 5, 1964, at the Manhattan Marriage Bureau. Their son, Max Brooks, was born in 1972, and their grandson, Henry Michael Brooks, was born in 2005.
When it hits the streets in a couple of months, it's $80. You want to save a couple of bucks and see the greatest performance from the greatest actress ever?
The main sources of income of Brooks include film, television, and theater. When Sid hired him in 1949, he was paid $50 a week. His salary as a writer for the NBC series The Admiral Broadway Review was $50,000. Then in 2006, he earned $5 million. Today, he is considered one of the highest-paid producers and directors. Brooks is estimated to be worth $100 million. Back in the year 2000, Brooks and Anne purchased 4 contiguous Ocean View apartments in Santa Monica, California. They purchased the property for $1.7 million and spent $500,000 on renovations. Then in 2004, the couple purchased a 5th unit in the same building. They spent $300,000 on this unit. The 5 units cover 40,000 square feet and were listed for $6 million in 2011. Mel eventually sold them in 2013 for $5.5 million. His primary residence with Anne was his country club in Santa Monica. This house covers 13,000 square feet, and they bought the property in 1978. Previously, Brooks also owned an apartment in New York City, as well as a house in the Hamptons. He also has a penthouse condo in Manhattan's Upper West Side. Brooks bought this penthouse in 1990. In his garage, you'll find a Range Rover, a BMW, a Land Cruiser, and a Cadillac Fleetwood.